Hi everyone, I'm Nicole from Baby to Sleep, and I am joined today by the most amazing lady called Claire, who runs Oliiki. And Claire is somebody who we've kind of been like ships passing in the night over the last couple of years. We've done similar things for supporting parents on the same sort of platforms, but we've never actually really had a chance to connect. And as fate would have it, we've ended up kind of coming together and realizing that both of our journeys are exactly the same, in the sense of we are trying to support parents to feel confident on their parenting journey in supporting their babies and their children to develop the best way they possibly can. And but yet we're both doing it from very different angles, but yet they link so well. So I'm going to just introduce Claire and let Claire tell you all about Oliiki and how she's going to help you in feeling like you really get what it is that you're doing and how you can really help your baby and your child to the best of your ability without feeling unsure of what you're doing. Go for it, Claire.
Wow. Something to live up to. Thanks. Thanks, Nicole. Now, so I am Clare Stead. I am a mum of 3. Mine are much bigger now. Mine are 20 and a little bit behind. But I remember those early days of becoming a new mum. In fact, when I was pregnant, I wanted to wear my invisible crown and I wanted everybody to know I was incredibly special, and no one cared. Beyond saying, oh yeah, well done, you're pregnant. But I wanted to be doing stuff with my baby at that point. I just wanted to start parenting really early on, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't even know if you could do it. And then when the baby arrived, whoa, that was a whole nother thing. That was a whole load of emotions of ups, downs, and in-betweens. And then you get to toddlerhood and managing 2, and the juggle and the returning to work, and everything about being a new parent is a learning journey that is ever changing. And I think the one thing I really learned about being a new parent was nothing lasts more than 6 weeks.
This is the thing. It takes 2 months to create a habit, but you don't get 2 months.
So you're just getting there and it's all changed. But the good thing is they never let you know that it's all changed. You just got to work it out.
I always find the big clue for that is sleep goes backwards. Sleep
totally.
goes to the wall.
Whatever's happened.
Wow, something's going on.
Yeah, and it's not till you're completely hanging that you work out that that's happened. Yeah. It sort of almost happens without you knowing, and then suddenly you're just like, you're going to the doctor and saying, I don't care who you medicate, but medicate one of us. And, you know, it is that sort of emotional, psychological sort of challenge of being a parent, which is absolutely amazing, but equally deeply challenging all the way along. Now, I'm a teacher. I'm a primary school teacher by training, so I should know what to do with babies, and I should have known about this parenting journey because I did child development for a degree. But I didn't know these things, and it was a learning journey for me. And it all everything sort of joined up by accident, as often is the way in life. So when I was teaching, school failed me and I failed school, first of all. And so I became a teacher because I hated the injustice of watching children fail. And I wanted to be able to make sure that every child thrived and they loved their learning journey, because it seems like it should be a right that we enable all children to reach their full potential. And they're in school a long time, so I really want them to enjoy being there, and I want them to be as fabulous as they possibly can. So that's why I became a teacher. When I was then teaching, I found that there was like 3 groups in every class. There was always the brightest one in the class, brightest groups in the class. Then there was the special needs children who were on their own special journey and they were learning in their own way. And then there was this group of children in the middle, and this group of children in the middle sometimes couldn't quite get their act together. They couldn't get the pencil on the paper. They couldn't quite pack their bag. They couldn't quite remember their PE kit. And I wanted to work out what was the difference between those bright children and those ones that couldn't quite get their act together. And I taught across 3 continents, and I found the same in all 3 places. So it wasn't just specific to the UK, it wasn't specific to higher affluent children or low affluent children. It was something across the board. And then I became an education researcher, and I was looking at best practice and helping children build curricula to ensure that children reach their full potential, and advising governments on the way of using that curricula to build and develop children. And consistently I still see the same thing. And then I ended up moving to Zambia, and I ended up putting the whole of primary education on a tablet for African kids to get international standard education, or high quality standard education, in their own language. And even though we radically changed the way the schooling system was happening for these children, and you could feel this amazing adventure that they were going on, there would still be this group of children that couldn't quite get their act together. So I realised this was a thing. And then somebody showed me this graph. And this graph is the science of the brain development of the first 1,000 days of life. And it comes out of the Centre on Developing Child, Harvard. And basically it starts off, it's always hard to do it this way around, it starts off before your baby's even born. Your baby is developing, their brain is growing and developing. And then what happens is, over time, in that first 1,000 days of life, this blue bit is the first year of life, their brain development is completely bonkers. You can see it goes absolutely shooting off the scale. This dotty line, this one here, is the end of the 1,000 days. And you can see that what happens is that the brain development comes down and it sits comfortably flatlining down the bottom for the rest of their development. Brains aren't developed until they're about 25, 26. And so what happens is you've got this amazing period where it's all going, and then it settles down and bumbles along. So it's never too late to develop your baby's brain and capabilities. But obviously, the more we do early within that period when your baby is literally primed and ready for learning, the better their outcomes are going to be. So when I saw that, it kind of switched on a few light bulbs, and I quit my job and I built the Oliiki app. And it was an app that was designed to be what I would have wanted when I wanted to wear my invisible crown and start my parenting journey when I was pregnant. It was an app that starts from the first day of conception, with tiny, tiny, tiny activities for parents to do. And the point is, they are tiny. And you may already be doing them, but the tiny activities show you what to do, but most importantly, they show you why you should do it and how it relates to your child's development, and how what you do is going to build your baby's brain. And then what it shows you is how to do it, which is usually don't drown them. And what do you need, which is usually some Tupperware or something from in and around the home. And then there is the science behind that and the research papers that back up what I've said. And then what we have is there's a little animation that comes across the screen, and it shows you the other areas of learning that you've developed by doing this for your baby. And you get 1 activity a day, you get 7 for a week. You can choose to do them by the age of the baby. You can choose to do them by the subject, which I've mapped it to the early years curriculum. And you can favourite them. And then at the back, in the profile section, you get your brain buckets. And they're the bit that make you feel really good, because that fills up over time and makes you realise that, whoa, check all these amazing things that I've been doing with my baby, and I've been building their brain. So it's tiny, tiny activities. But what they do is show you the why. And when you have the why, like sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, frankly, is not an activity. But for your baby, it's a massive brain building activity. If I told you that singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star develops language, it develops language in context, it develops rhythm, it develops rhyme, it develops mathematical understanding. It gives them music in context. It gives them, it is the beginning of reading, because if you add in twinkling lights and show them, or you use your fingers and move them, your baby is tracking with their eyes. And when they're tracking with their eyes, that's something that you need to do when you're reading. You need to learn to track along the line. So you thought that you were just singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, when suddenly you realize, I'm a goddess, or even a god, because this is great for dads too, because it's almost like a manual that says, do this, this is why. And the outcome is your baby gets great.
And you hit the nail on the head though with the why.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, we were talking about this earlier, from my perspective,
Yeah.
from the sleep. When families work with me, the why is the key, the understanding. It's okay saying, get your baby to fall asleep, but hang on a minute, what am I going to do with this? Why should I do X, Y, and Z to get here? What's the reasoning behind it? What's the science behind this? You know, and as soon as your understanding is there, everything changes.
It becomes incredibly empowering to understand the why. Like, you know how we talk to babies and we go, hello, baby. And if you're my husband, he would say, stop talking to that baby in that stupid way. You sound an idiot. I mean, how many people have said that or felt it? And actually, when we know that that's called motherese, or nowadays as a more PC, it's called parentese. And the reason that we do that is to slow down the vowel in the word, so that your baby, who at 10 months old and 12 months old, who is born a child of the world, can take statistical analysis of the vowels that they hear and bin the ones they don't need.
Wow.
You suddenly think, hello, baby. It's not such a stupid thing.
Because you've got 3 vowels straight away.
Well, and all of a sudden, you understand what you're doing. We're doing it naturally, but now you understand why you're doing it.
Wow.
And you suddenly realize you're amazing. You really are amazing. But it's that that understanding of why, for both of our programs, that literally is the game changer. There was a program on BBC some while back. I'm really frustrated, I've forgotten the name of it, and it's not on iPlayer anymore. But they did basically what the Oliiki app has done. They took a scientific study and then they turned them into activities, and then they got parents to do them, and then had a look at what happened and the impact. And I've kind of done it the other way around by putting this why in, and giving parents these activities. And one of the parents is asked to talk to her toddler as much as she can during the day. Now, she's already talking to this toddler, so she thinks, this is pretty hard because I'm already talking to the toddler. But she's been encouraged to talk to this baby, this child. So she thinks, well, what I'll do is I'll take this child out for the day, because when you go out, it's easier to have a chat. So they go to the beach and they walk along the pier and the promenade and whatever. And off they go. And I can't remember the numbers totally, but I think her interactions increased by 5%. So not a lot. She just chatted a bit more. The child's interactions increased by about 13%. Again, great, but not a lot. But what increased was the bit that's actually the brain building, which is called the serve and return. And that is when you as a child serve a look, or you point, or you serve a something to the adult, and the adult returns that serve. So the child points, the adult looks, the interaction happens. And that's the brain building. That went up. So we've gone up 5% and 13%. Those 7 returns went up 38%.
Wow.
And that's the brain building bit. And so what happens is also that this parent, who was already doing a whole lot of language with her child, has just been told, I want you to think about the language you used today. And just in the action of being told, think about language, she upped her interactions She upped her brain building. And then the next day and the next day and the next day, it's about 4 days that people tend to remember. She kept it up. And so what the Oliiki app is doing is basically giving you tiny activities and telling you to focus on, I don't know, language. And then tomorrow it might be mathematical understanding, or it might be social emotional, or it might be whatever it happens to be. And then you've kind of forgotten about it by Friday, but it's okay, because something else is coming in and you're remembering all these other ones, and you're doing each tiny activity more than once, because you're remembering, oh, I'm in Tesco and that lady told me I needed to think about language. Let me point out all the stuff that I'm seeing in Tesco, that we're having that interaction with my child. So you give them more opportunity to build their brains along the way.
It becomes more natural.
Yeah.
The more you do something like this, the more natural it becomes, and you start to become, so by the time they are, you do this as a baby, and by the time they are a toddler, it's the norm to actually just point to things, and have that two-way conversation, that communication, without it feeling forced.
Totally. And I think both of the programs that we offer, starting early makes such a big difference, because we start from a place of confidence. You haven't failed.
Yeah.
So we support from the beginning so that you start confidently. And we know that confident parents create confident children. And we know that when you have confident parents, it's something called parental self-efficacy. So when I believe in myself as a parent, I feel good. I have low postnatal depression, I have low infant mental health issues, and I have a high home learning environment. So we know that supporting you parents in that journeying in pregnancy to be successful and to know what success looks like, because I remember my mum saying to me just before I had my eldest, right, I'm going to be available when the baby comes. What do you want me to do? And I said, I don't know, Mum. I've never had a baby before.
What do you think you might need to do for me? You've been there.
How do we know? And Kate Middleton Royal Foundation, during lockdown, they did Moripol did with Kindred Squared, they did a research program, piece of research, and they looked at parents with children from 0 to 5, and they asked them if they felt judged. And 70% of parents felt judged. But
I'm surprised it's not actually more.
Absolutely. But they also asked parents what preparation they did when the baby was coming. They painted the room, they got the clothes ready. And if you're me, you'll wash the clothes and hang them on the washing line just because they look cute. I thought they did that one. You buy toys, you set out the nursery, you set out the playroom, but you never learn about child development. You never learn about what you need to do to be a parent, because it's too hard conceptually to do that.
How can you? One of my favorite sayings is, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. How can you? It's only when you are hit with something that you go, I don't know this. What do I do now? And having something around you that you can dip into at that point when you go, I don't know this. Hang on, I've got something that can help me. Or actually, I remember watching about this, and I remember thinking this will come in handy when I hit this point, and I've hit that point. So no, I don't know it, but I know there's something to help me through this, to know about it, to learn about it, so I can become confident.
Totally, but I think it's really important that it's a trusted source, that it's not Dr. Google.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
And
Dr. Google, oh goodness.
It's so important that you found this trusted space, because the journey down Dr. Google's rabbit holes is alarming and frankly should be avoided at all costs. And the other thing that I was going to say that I'm now desperately menopausally trying to remember, but has escaped me for the moment. yes, I've remembered, is that both of you don't know.
Mm.
And so what happens is, relationship wise, it becomes highly tense,
Yes.
because you're both desperately seeking reassurance that the other somebody's going to take the lead here, but actually no one can take the lead. And so it's almost the blind taking the blind, leading the blind, and then being slightly resentful that you're doing that because you don't know either. And so you end up on top of all this baby trauma of like, I don't know what I'm doing, adding in relationship challenges as well. And I think it's really important to just kind of be kind to each other and realize that both of you are on a journey of discovery with this baby who's also on a journey of discovery. And nothing lasts longer than 6 weeks. So, you know, it's a movable feast.
So it's great fun, isn't it? This parenting journey. Nobody prepares you. Well,
No.
we do, but nobody knows this yet. And this is what we're trying to sort out, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
There is nothing to sort, you know, you just don't know. It's all, here's your antenatal classes. You're going to have a baby. Have fun. Go home with your baby now.
What I find utterly staggering is that we do antenatal classes for a birth that can last, what, worst case, I don't know, 72 hours. I'm not a midwife. I don't know how long it lasts. But as long as they're going to let it last. But it's a period of time. It's days rather than anything else. But yet we do no preparation for the thing that is going to last for the rest of our lifetime. It's like, we wouldn't do that with a job. We wouldn't do that with a car. We wouldn't do that if we got a pet from the pet rescue. We would have somebody come around and check that our house was okay. We'd have a mentor that would teach us to drive. We would have a shitload of practice, and we'd be tested to see if we were good enough. Now, I'm not suggesting that we need to test all parents, but what I am suggesting is that there is no reason to do this alone. There is no reason to feel that you should know how to do it. In fact, if you feel that you know how to do it, you're doing it wrong. Because
likely, because how are you supposed to know?
Well, exactly. You know, you're making it up as you go along. That's okay. Your child is unique. You are unique. Your relationship with your child is unique. Your relationship with your partner and your child is unique. And the relationship of the group is unique. So no one can be there for you. But what we can do is give you the tools, give you the confidence to know that the choices you make are the choices that are the right choices for your journey.
Absolutely.
Your child's journey. And I think that's really, really empowering to say, do you know what, you're okay, you're doing good. Yeah. And this is evidence that you're doing good. And
this is the thing we were talking about before, you say about Dr. Google. And I think this is a really important factor. And it's sort of how many, we were talking before about what, actually, you tell people what happens when we sleep with the brain.
Okay, so during sleep, what happens is you're laying down memories, the experiences of the day, and you're setting them into the synapse connections that you've been building through the day. So you build memory during that period of time.
And you're going to back up what I say all the time. Why are naps important for babies?
Because you need to lay these memories down. You need to give this period of, you know, they've done something, they need to consolidate that learning, and they do that through the sleep period.
So talking what we were saying before, when we were talking about Dr. Google, one of the things that I find so frequently when I go into Facebook and all these is when children are struggling with sleep, the things that everybody seems to tell them to do is to cut the naps, to drop the sleep, to get them to go to bed later, cut the naps. And both of us, we were chatting earlier, it was like, it's the opposite way round, because actually sleep breeds sleep, but sleep is so important for that brain development. But again, you don't know this unless somebody tells you.
And what also is fundamental is what happens in the day sets the sleep. So if you have sat in front of a telly with a dummy in your mouth and you've effectively, what happens, children can't watch telly. Of course children can watch telly, but their brain doesn't really respond. So what happens is you're almost numbing the brain. And you can see them. I mean, I've got some brilliant photos of my children sat on the sofa. All you can see is my children. And there's two sets of photos. One, they're sat like this. And one, they're sat like this. One, there's an adult talking to them. And one is the telly. Same kids, same period of time, different facial expression, and you can see that they are literally going, and that's great, because sometimes we need to switch off. You know, hands up who does that. You know, I did watch the whole of Australia Married at First Sight during COVID. You know, and it's a guilty pleasure, and you know what a pleasure to switch off. Yeah. But that's what it's doing, and in the period of time when we know this brain is building. So if what we do during the day is we've got our child dummy in, and this dummy in is a real problem, because that stops those interactions, that cooing, that the vocalization. And one of our biggest special needs in schools at the moment is language deficit. So it's people, babies are children are arriving at school, nurseries, in early childhood settings, without the language acquisition that they need. And learning happens in a sequence. You have to take the steps in order to be able to gain the learning. So if you don't do it when your brain is primed to do it, and developmentally ready to do it, you just shift it on later. But the brain has done that big development, so it's going to take more effort to get the outcome that you want. It's not that it's too late, it's just harder. So what happens during the day is, if you have been stimulated, and I'm not necessarily talking bells, whistles, starts and farts, I'm talking stimulation that is brain building experience, where you've chatted, where your child has had those interactions with you. Maybe you've been to the park, maybe you've been for a walk, maybe you've talked about the people you see on the bus, maybe you've sung songs, maybe they've had a bath. All those tiny interactions, those are the brain builders. And those are the bits that need to be consolidated through the sleep that happens, through the naps regularly, and through the solid sleep at night.
Do you know what? It's interesting you say this, because that's one of the things I'm very keen on, is what happens in that last 2 hours before bed. Because if they've been at nursery all day, you've not had that chance to connect. And sometimes that point of connection happens just before bed, because that might be the only time that you've got. And it's something I was saying, right, what we actually want to do is we want to kind of take this down a bit. Let's go for some big body play. Let's get some physical energy going. And then what we want to do is move into some kind of mental stimulation. So with younger children, it could be building blocks and things, and labeling the colours, to label all the things around it. So your baby or your toddler is sitting there going, that's red, that's yellow, this is tall. They have no idea. All they've got is their parents' focus, but their brain is taking all of this information in. And then to finish with a nice story and a cuddle, and it's bringing it down. So we're helping them prepare for sleep, but giving them things for their brain to actually work on while they're sleeping as well. It's like,
totally.
I always do reading with my daughter before she goes to bed, for her to read, which sounds crazy because she's tired. But actually, if I get her to read before she goes to bed, it seems to consolidate while she's in bed, while she's asleep. So we wake up the next day, and actually her reading has progressed overnight just from doing that, because she's taken it in. But I let her watch television, which is rare. If I let her watch television close to bed, she wakes up really early the next morning.
Yeah.
Better if we have mentally stimulated her before she goes to bed.
But also the routine is fundamental, because that gives we can hang, if it's a routine, we don't have to worry what comes next. We don't like surprise. We like to know, our brain likes to know, oh, I've had my tea. And now when I've had my tea, I play outside. And when I've played outside, I then come in and I don't know, I play a puzzle game or with my mum or dad. And then we have 2 minutes when we are told it's time for bed. And then we go up and we have a Chase Me Charlie game and we get in the bath. And then we have a nice cozy bath time and then we snacky. And when we snacky in our towel, at that point, everything's brought down and it's calm and everybody's talking gently. And then when we get in our jammies, we then have our story, and we always have a story here. Now, my brain doesn't need to think about what's happening. I can just absorb the learning that's being delivered to me. But if we interrupt that and we say, oh, well, today what we're going to do is we're going to go swimming. I say, whoa, okay, alert, alert. I'm now hyper, which is great, but I'm also not ready with what comes next. So I'm charged with cortisol. I'm charged with this, all these hormones that are going to make me go, whoa!
The second wind.
Yeah. And then we'll wonder why our babies don't go down really nicely. And I always felt that the pickup from nursery or childminder starts before I drop them. It starts in the morning with how I prepare myself for my day and my child for leaving and therefore collecting. And I also felt that, like, do not disturb my routine from 4 o'clock. Like, push off, everybody. 4 o'clock is my cutoff, because I needed my children to go to bed at 6:30. I didn't want them anymore. You know, there's like a fabulous thing. You've got a glass of wine. I can no longer be a good mother. Good night. And I will say that to my teens. It's been lovely. It's been lovely. Because
you started saying to me now, can I sit downstairs with you while you work? I'm like, get to bed. Go.
Because there's only so long we can give in a day, but equally, there's only so long that they need us to be stimulating them and being there for them. They need to give them the opportunity to go to bed.
It is exactly the thing. What you've just hit the nail on the head there as well when you've said there's only so much that they need from us. It depends on the type of need. If we actually give them ourselves with no phones, no distractions, if we give them us completely, we actually only need to give them us in short doses, and that's actually enough. That short dose of intense quality time is exactly, that is so much more than 3 hours of just sitting there doing nothing. It's so much more valuable to them.
Totally. It literally takes 10 minutes a day. And that sounds like ridiculous, but I promise you, give 10 full minutes. I bet you it won't be 10 minutes, it'll be half an hour before you even realize the time's passed. Do that 2-3 times a day, and you have literally given your baby the best gift in the whole wide world. And especially if you do these tiny, tiny activities and you've understood why. Same with your sleep thing. Why?
Yeah.
And you know what? You can get off Dr. Google a load of activities. You can get off Dr. Google a load of sleep stuff, but you don't get that understanding and that deep inner core of knowledge. And those parents who feel judged don't need to feel judged, because they know they're doing the right thing. They know they're doing it right. And that's the biggest feedback I get from parents is, I instantaneously felt better because I know I'm doing the right thing.
And when you can turn around to someone and categorically tell them to stick their nose out, because
the research says
what they're telling you is a load of rubbish. Like, just let them cry it out. I can confidently tell you, no.
And here's the research.
Yes.
Would you like to read it? Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's massive. So for a parent, we've waited on a long time, but for a parent, for me, it is about building you parents and your confidence, so that, because I care about you, like, because it's pants being in a situation where you don't know what you're doing and you feel judged, criticized, or just uncertain, pretty lonely, and second guessing what everybody else is doing, and comparing your child to somebody else's child. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if I didn't care about you, fine. I actually care about kids a lot. And I think it's really, really, really unfair that we enable children not to have all the skills that we can possibly give them to be the amazing selves that they are. They are our next generation.
Yes.
They are the legacy we leave in the world. So let's do everything we can, not to make them needy and spoil them, but to give them the skills to go and fish for themselves, to be able to be the fabulous selves that we want them to be in the areas that they need to develop in. So that's not saying it's all about academics, because it might be your child's an amazing dancer, but we need to give them skills in order to be able to fulfill that. And we only can do that when we understand what we're doing in our tiny interactions. And so that's what Oliiki is all about. And I know that your sleep stuff's all about that why, which is so empowering for all of us. Because like my quest was a why, and I found my why in that. And all I've done is interpret that for people who didn't do the child development degree.
Amazing. So how can people get your stuff then?
Okay, so first of all, it's a really stupid name. Okay, so there you go. It's called Oliiki. Okay, and the reason it's called Oliiki is, and I have to look this up because it's quite long, but it's called Oliiki because it encourages you to observe your baby closely and learn what your baby is saying. So OL, observe, learn what your baby's saying, initiate conversation, investigate their interests, kindle their connection, and instill a love of learning. And when you've got all of that, you pretty much nailed it. So it's called Oliiki. It's in the app stores. If you're watching this today, when we upload it, any minute now, it'll look like, which side are we on? This side. It'll look like that. Okay, but any minute now, the new version is going to hit the stores, and will look like, oh, hang on, will look like that, and you'll get it's much nicer looking. And in order to get that, once it's hit the stores, you'll need to update. If you don't have automatic updates on it, you need to update. So you can get it from the app stores, both Android and Google. You can follow me on Facebook, which is Build Your Baby's Brain Oliiki. But actually, if you just search Oliiki across all socials, you'll find me. It's a really silly name. There's not many people that are called Oliiki. My website's oliikiapp.com. We'll probably put a link in below so that you can see. So you don't have to remember how to spell the silly name. And look, it's actually on my name here. You can see down there, Oliiki app. So if I had my time again, I'd have called it something more sensible, but I didn't.
That's brilliant. Well, we're going to be doing a lot of work together anyway, because both me and Claire really feel that actually what we're giving to families and our passion in supporting families and supporting children and supporting parents, our paths align just incredibly. So we're both going to be sort of working together to find ways to make sure we can really, really get involved and get down and help you guys to feel confident and help you on your parenting journey. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more of Claire, and you'll, as always, you'll see lots of me. But like I say, hop on, have a nosy, have a look at the app. I am so excited for the new version.
Thank you. Just one thing, the app, you can download it. It's free for the first week, and then it is a subscription, or you can buy it direct from me. If you buy it direct from me, just send me an email, and my email is on the website, and I might be able to give you a little discount.
think it's cheaper, isn't it, direct through you?
And I was just thinking, you know what would be really nice, and guys, I'm just chucking this out there, and you know, it could be that I'm talking nonsense, but I was just thinking it'd be really nice to kind of do a parent summit, where we have like a pregnancy thing maybe, or a toddler thing, and we do like a whole day, and we get various people on, and we do like, people buy a ticket, come to the whole day, and you can dip into the bits that you want, get the recording, see all this stuff, learn more. Just a thought. Yeah, just had a thought in my head.
Let's see how it goes. Right, so that's us finished on here on the YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe. There's always new videos coming onto the Baby to Sleep channel. Have a look at the website, babytosleep.co.uk. Go onto the Oliikis. We've got, oh gosh, there's just so much support available. So much support, so much free support, and so much support. So just grab it with both hands. And we will see you soon. See you later.
Bye.